Alright, let's go. Number 10. This moon is being torn apart in real time. There is a moon in our solar system being physically destroyed in real time. Not slowly, not metaphorically. Right now, as you watch this video, it is being stretched, compressed, and deformed with every single orbit it completes. Jupiter's innermost Galilean moon, Io, orbits dangerously close to its parent planet. But that proximity is only half the nightmare. It is locked into what astrophysicists call a Laplace resonance, a gravitational chain reaction involving 3 moons. For every orbit Ganymede completes, Europa completes exactly 2. And Io is forced to complete exactly 4. This precise orbital dance prevents Io's path from ever becoming a perfect circle. Instead, it follows an elliptical orbit, meaning Jupiter's gravitational pull constantly fluctuates as the distance between them changes. As Io swings closer and then farther from the gas giant with every loop, Jupiter's immense gravity doesn't just pull on it, it physically stretches it, squeezes it, and distorts its entire global shape in an endless cycle. The result is staggering. Io's solid surface rises and falls by nearly 100 meters with every single orbit. Picture standing on a world where the rock beneath your feet bends, where the entire planet flexes under an invisible crushing pressure. Io isn't merely orbiting Jupiter, it is being wrung out like a wet cloth by a gas giant 300 times the mass of Earth. And it has been happening for billions of years. Number 9. It's the most violent volcanic world ever found. All of that internal stress has to go somewhere. On Io, it escapes as fire, and not the kind of fire you've ever seen on Earth. Io is the most volcanically active object in the entire solar system. Hundreds of active vents pepper a surface that never has a single moment of peace. The lava temperatures at these vents exceed 1,527 degrees Celsius, roughly 300 degrees hotter than the basaltic lava flowing from volcanoes on modern Earth. These temperatures are so extreme, they rival the ancient superheated lavas that rolled across our own planet billions of years ago, when Earth was still young and half-molten. And then, in December 2024, NASA's Juno spacecraft made things even more extreme. Scientists discovered a volcanic hotspot in Io's southern hemisphere, larger than Earth's Lake Superior, belching out eruptions carrying 6 times the total energy output of every power plant on Earth combined. That is one hotspot. On a moon already covered in hundreds of them. When Juno returned for a follow-up flyby in March 2025, the same volcano was still erupting, marking the most energetic volcanic event ever recorded on Io. This world doesn't just host volcanoes, it operates as one single continuously exploding planetary engine. Number 8. The ground literally collapses into lava. But not everything on Io explodes upward. Some of its most terrifying features collapse downward, silently, without warning. Scattered across the surface are massive volcanic depressions called paterae, enormous bowls housing sprawling oceans of molten rock beneath deceptively thin, hardened crusts. The largest of these is Loki Patera, a titanic volcanic depression spanning 202 kilometers across. From above, the dark surface of these lava lakes might look like solid, stable ground. It is anything but. At any moment, the cooling crust becomes too dense to keep floating on the molten rock below. When that happens, massive sections simply break and plunge into the superheated interior in total silence. Then the entire region floods with fresh magma. These resurfacing waves don't creep. They race across Loki Patera at 1 to 2 kilometers per day, releasing enormous bursts of thermal energy detectable all the way from Earth. There is no seismic warning, no slow build-up, just a sudden, violent drop into a glowing abyss. On Io, the ground isn't a surface you can trust. It's a temporary lid, waiting for the moment it fails. Number 7. Its eruptions are larger than entire nations. When Io does erupt upward, it does so on a scale that makes Earth's most powerful volcanic events look like backyard fireworks. Some of Io's plumes blast material up to 500 kilometers above the surface, well into the vacuum of space, so enormous they can be tracked from Earth using the Hubble Space Telescope. But here is where it gets genuinely strange. Many of these massive eruptions are not spewing red-hot lava into the sky. They are launching sulfur dioxide gas, and the moment that gas hits the freezing vacuum, it skips the liquid phase entirely and crystallizes directly into solid particles. Frozen mid-flight. This creates what scientists call a snowcano, a volcano that flings material into space and rains frozen, toxic crystals back down onto the surface. That surface, by the way, sits at around minus 130 degrees Celsius. So you have boiling lakes of magma being pelted with sulfur snow falling from the sky. Juno's recent flybys captured 9 active volcanic plumes ranging from 50 to 100 kilometers in height, all erupting at the same time. This is not geology, this is something else entirely. Number 6. Its surface can't remember its own past. Because Io is constantly burying itself under fresh lava and sulfur snow, it holds a uniquely haunting secret. It has no memory of its own past. Most worlds in the solar system preserve their ancient scars for billions of years. Impact craters, fault lines, ancient riverbeds, they last. But on Io, you will not find a single preserved impact crater in any high-resolution image ever taken. Not one. Its global resurfacing rate is approximately 1 centimeter per year, which sounds slow until you realize that's enough to completely erase and replace the entire surface within a few million years, a blink in cosmic time. Any asteroid strike, any ancient scar, any geological record is swallowed almost immediately, buried under overturning lava or blanketed beneath fresh layers of sulfur frost. The result is a surface painted in vivid, alien hues of yellow, red, orange, white, and brown. Everything you see is painfully new. Io is a world that aggressively erases its own history every single day, making it impossible to read its past. The canvas destroys itself on a schedule. Number 5. It has mountains that shouldn't exist. Now here is something nobody would predict from a world tearing itself apart this fast, massive mountains. Enormous ones. You would expect a moon resurfacing this aggressively to be completely flat. Instead, Io has over 135 identified mountains, and most of them are not volcanoes at all. Some, like South Buasol Montes, reach 17.5 kilometers in height. That is nearly twice the height of Mount Everest, rising from a world smaller than our own moon. They don't form in mountain ranges like Earth's tectonic chains. They stand alone, sudden, steep, isolated, completely out of place. What science tells us is that as fresh lava continuously buries older crust, that older crust is forced downward and inward toward a smaller radius. This generates enormous horizontal pressure deep underground until huge blocks of silicate rock, hundreds of kilometers across, get violently thrust upward along deep faults, bursting through the surface to relieve the stress. Even Io's mountains are not born gently. They are punched out of the ground by a planet that has run out of room. Number 4. It's one of the driest and most toxic worlds ever found. While neighboring moons Europa and Ganymede hide vast liquid water oceans beneath their icy shells, Io missed out on water entirely. It is one of the driest objects ever discovered in the solar system. Instead of water, Io's volatile world is dominated by sulfur compounds, sulfur dioxide frost, and toxic volcanic gases. At its poles, Hubble Space Telescope observations detected the eerie glow of hydrogen, suggesting the polar regions are coated in frozen hydrogen sulfide, a gas so toxic it is used in industrial hazard training, and one that requires temperatures of around -82 degrees Celsius just to solidify. NASA's Juno spacecraft recently revealed for the first time the subsurface temperature profile of Io, finding evidence of still warm magma that hasn't yet solidified below the moon's cooled surface crust, meaning the fire goes far deeper than anyone realized. Where water acts as a stabilizing, life-sustaining force on Earth, Io runs entirely on sulfur chemistry. In every phase, solid frost, flowing magma, and vaporized gas, simultaneously, across the same world. Number 3. It's slowly losing itself into space. Because Io's atmosphere is almost non-existent and its gravitational grip is relatively weak, it cannot contain the violence of its own eruptions. Every single second, roughly 1 ton of ionized oxygen and sulfur is stripped away from the moon's thin atmosphere and flung into space. This is not a gradual geological process. This is a continuous, massive hemorrhage happening right now. All of that lost material doesn't simply drift away. It accumulates into a colossal rotating ring of dense plasma encircling Jupiter, known as the Io plasma torus, a toroidal cloud that pumps up to 1,000 kilograms of heavy ions into Jupiter's magnetosphere every single second. The sheer volume of material Io sheds actually controls the magnetospheric behavior of the entire Jupiter system. Io is not just losing its atmosphere. It is physically dissolving into space, piece by piece, feeding a gigantic invisible structure that it can never escape. The moon is being consumed by the very system it was born into. Number 2. It's electrically connected to Jupiter. The material Io bleeds into space creates an interaction so powerful, it forms a permanent electrical bridge between a moon and a planet. As Io plows through Jupiter's massive rotating magnetic field, it behaves like a generator on a planetary scale, producing an electric current of approximately 5 million amperes. This isn't static electricity or a passing discharge. It is a sustained, continuous flow that travels directly along magnetic field lines through the vacuum of space, connecting Io to Jupiter through a structure called the Io flux tube. Electrons spiraling down this magnetic highway smash into Jupiter's upper atmosphere and create glowing footprints, permanent auroral hotspots tied directly to Io's position visible in ultraviolet light. And the radio noise the system generates is extraordinary. Io makes Jupiter the brightest radio source in the entire sky at decometric wavelengths, second only to the active Sun. A moon, powering the radio signature of the largest planet in the solar system. Io isn't orbiting Jupiter as a separate object. It is hardwired into Jupiter's electrical system like a component that cannot be removed. Number 1. This moon doesn't control its own fate. Step back and look at everything we have just covered, and one deeply unsettling truth becomes impossible to ignore. Nothing about Io belongs to itself. Its shape is endlessly tortured by Jupiter's gravity and the orbital resonance imposed by Europa and Ganymede. Its internal heat is not its own. It is a byproduct of the relentless tidal friction forced upon it from the outside. Its eruptions, its collapsing lava lakes, its sulfur snow plumes, all of it is merely Io desperately trying to vent the energy inflicted on it by a planet it cannot escape. Even its atmosphere is continuously stripped away to feed Jupiter's plasma torus and fuel its auroras. Io is a world that has never had a choice. Its structure, its chaos, its future, all of it is decided by a gas giant that will never release it. Every eruption is compelled. Every mountain thrust upward is a consequence of forces it didn't choose. Every ton of atmosphere it loses per second is taken, not surrendered. Io does not orbit Jupiter. Io is owned by Jupiter, and it always will be. That is Io, the most geologically violent, electrically enslaved, and existentially trapped world we have ever found. And the terrifying part is that it has been enduring this for billions of years, with no end in sight. If this one broke your brain a little, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel more than you think. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the most extreme corners of space and science, and drop a comment below if you could safely observe any one of these 10 things from orbit. Which would it be? The next video is already waiting for you. See you there.